Hello, Shouts. Welcome to the first proper day one of the Pantheon Grotmas, where we are going to be rolling out a bunch of different lists and coaching stuff and whatever else just as presents to the 40k community. And I thought we could open off the first proper video within this series with something which is really, really fun. I don't know how competitive this is yet. This currently sits in the bucket of like where the Immortal Tower was before I was able to like proof of concept and actually play it and get results with it and whatever else. But I can guarantee you this is like the funnest shit that you will play. This list is essentially giving your opponent an ultimatum of I will either kill you turn one or I'll go and get a beer. And obviously that's a little bit of like tongue in cheek. There are certainly ways to play lists like this where you don't have to just like throw the entire fucking game. But the sheer amount of aggression that you can get away with on this is absurd. Absolutely absurd. So what we're going to be doing in today's video is showing you the list. There's a paste bin link down in the description. So go and check that out if you want to bring it up for yourself. And then I'm going to take us over to TTS where I will show you a couple of like easy things for deployment, what you're considering, a few of the tech pieces within the list, and give you an idea of if you wanted to run this or a version of it, because this is pretty modular in some of the stuff that we can take out to change and fit to playstyle or what models people own or whatever. And have you leave the video with a good idea of how you would run this and why. Now, for anybody that didn't see the sort of announcement video, the first one that I did that was released yesterday, obviously, first and foremost, go and check it out. But as I stated in the sort of second part of that video, well, I'll just say the first video, I go through everything better than I can, and I don't want to retread old ground. But I just wanted to say a massive, massive thank you to a few key individuals that after that video went live, immediately reached out. The generosity of members of our community has been really heartwarming, and I am kind of floored by it. So thank you to everybody that has donated so far. If you would like to help out, there's obviously a link in the description of this video. If you would like to know why you're donating, then obviously go and check out that first video. But anyway, without any further ado, let's get into the list. First off, boom, flashbang, bitches. Second off, welcome to our Take on an Alpha Strike Montka list. Now, obviously, the meta hasn't been very Alpha Strikey lately, but it got me thinking when I was like, because I love playing around with meme list ideas, that if nobody's expecting people to Alpha Strike them, then no one is going to have lists that defend against it particularly well. Obviously, there are some armies that just can't be Alpha Struck. They're very defensive. They've got a lot of tools. They've got whatever. But this list aims to be able to go into almost any list archetype and be able to do a significant amount of damage turn one and potentially even make it so your opponent can never leave their deployment zone. So what are we working with? First and foremost, you can see that our Warlord is Darkstrider. Now, this, you'd go, okay, cool, Deep Strike Denial. He can sit at the backfield. He can do whatever. Oh, no. Oh no, he's going with a Pathfinder unit. We are using him for the +1 to wound and having a little center of the board, no deep strike, no shenanigans, no whatever, in order to affect a little bit more Alpha Strike. That +1 to wound on the ions with lethal hits, meaning that some of your shots immediately go through to the save step, and then when you do go to the wound roll, it's even better. +1 to wound is just broadly useful. And if you're going with, like, say, the pulse carbines or whatever into Marines, Poxwalkers, anything that you've really got to clear off and start getting a lot of damage down on, going from wounding on 3s to wounding on 2s is actually a very, very big deal. And of course, it has to be said, being in Montka, you've got things for like, you know, additional AP, whatever. And because Darkstrider's unit can guide for itself, it is this wonderful little self-contained missile that's able to just run up the board, guide, bang, off you go. Now, the second character that we're doing and the only enhancement in the list is Crit Trail Shaper, which has Strike Swiftly. Now, we'll get into this when we go over to the tabletop, but this guy has a really, really interesting interaction. Now, you'd be asking, Jay, why a Trail Shaper? It just kind of worked out from points, but the big things that I'm looking at on the data sheet is Infiltrate and Scout. Now, I hear you saying all three of the crew characters have those keywords. Yes, absolutely. But what I'm looking for out of this model and potentially the unit that it will join is that one, points just kind of worked out, so I rolled with it. The second is that the Trail Shaper, when he's attached to a crew carnivore unit or fast stalker unit or whatever, in this list we've got carnivores, is you can make a reactive move of D6, which is really, really good if you decide to attach him to a crew carnivore unit to keep that stickying unit alive to just annoy the crap out of your opponent in as many instances as you can. Either that, or not even moving away, but also they move within 9 of you, you roll for it, and then you move all of your crew carnivores onto an objective, swamp it with OC, and if they are trying to kill something else to take that objective, now they've also got to worry about that unit. So there's a lot of little plays that can go in there. But the big thing is infiltrating. And I'll go through the rest of the list, and you might be able to piece together what I'm going to do with this guy before I even get to it, because we also have to acknowledge his redeploy, which is his unit as well as one other crew unit, which means if he's attached to the crew carnivores, cool, you just pick them up. If not, you can pick up him and the crew carnivores regardless of attachment. So anyway, crew carnivore squad, never leave home without him. Sticky objectives is just way too powerful, and I love having it, especially on a list archetype like this. Next up, we have, count them, 1, 2, 3 Pathfinder squads, and you'll notice every single one of them has a recon drone. And I just noticed that when I went to highlight it, that for whatever reason, this loadout from New Recruit doesn't have the recon drone showing in this text. Be aware, all of your Pathfinders are going to have the recon drone. Now, I will say just here that it's not a mistake to have like one of these guys with recon or 2 with a recon and 1 with the grav inhibitor drone. Grav inhibitor is very, very good. I went for the recons because of the style we're going to play for, and that'll become crystal clear as we start going through the rest of the list. All of them are running 3 ion rifles. It is the best weapon option that they've got, in my opinion. You can certainly run the rail rifle if you want, but when you see the rest of the list, you're not going to worry about our ability to crack out transports or tanks or whatever else. And 3 single shots on 4s is like, and that's me factoring in guiding. You can go to 3s if you're heavy, but I would rather do that with 9 shots across the unit with lethal hits. It just gives you a better chance of hitting those 6s. Gun drones on the chassis, semi-automatic grenade launcher, not too much else to talk about that. Each of them a little self-directing missile package that just runs up, shoots something, potentially throws a grenade, and then when it dies, because we're in Montka, full reroll stat against the unit that killed it. All right, I've got a single unit of stealth suits in here. Now, I do think that a single unit of stealth suits sitting on a long firing lane or being in a position where there's a number of firing lanes they can get line of sight down, but not having them risk themselves is still going to be pretty valuable in almost any tower list. Now, it's not to say that you have to take them. In this list archetype, though, I do want them because of some of the units that I've got. I will just be playing for multi-turn value out of them and not getting them tagged up or whatever else. The new 5-man sizing, it is admittedly good, like the 6-man that I took before the unit changed to the event that had the Immortal Tower list. The 6-man was actually really difficult for a lot of people to shift because they didn't want to commit significant resources to it. So it actually stuck around for a pretty long period of time. So if you play it correctly, you'll have this around for almost the entire game, get a lot of value out of them, and, take the sting out of the unit changing when we didn't want it to. Single unit of Vespid, because Uppy Downy's great. I looked for whether I could jam in a second unit of Vespid, but at least one goes in almost every single list. We've got a single unit of Crude Hounds. I had 40 points left over, didn't want to chuck anything else in, didn't want to make any other adjustments. This is the sort of thing that if you went away from the triplicate meme that you're going to see, you could certainly take the Crude Hounds out as well as your other changes, jam something else in. But these guys specifically are actually quite good because we're including a Trail Shaper. And as long as they start within range of the crew carnivores, which is very easy to do, I believe it's a 6-inch range, then they've got Advance and Charge, which can fuck over things like, Sisters, Eldari, things you can go into where you can pick up a couple of models, or like a tank that doesn't have the number of attacks to kill them back, and then obviously grounding that tank so it can't move because it's got to fall back out of combat. Or importantly, if you run them up so that it's in range of the Trail Shaper, when Crude Hounds are in range of a Crude character, they get OC, which means they can do actions, they can stand on objectives, be early trading pieces, all that sort of good stuff. So it actually works in this list as a little throwaway unit for 40 points that I couldn't really, or not that I couldn't work out what to do with, but I didn't want to do anything else with. There we go, triple ghost kill, cyclic ions, fusion blasters, battlesuit support system. Not too much to say about these guys until we get to some of the tech. Then I've got double hammerhead. These guys are rocking the ion cannons, seeker missiles, accelerated burst cannons. These guys, just ion support from behind is going to be incredibly important while the rest of your army rushes and crashes into your opponent. With the lethal hits, it is a great all-round weapon. It's great at determinators. Hell, even like 2 of these shots going through is 6 damage into a vehicle, which is still pretty big, not even accounting for the seeker missiles. Then, to cap it off, we have 3 units of 3 piranhas with their fusion blasters and their 2 Seeker missiles. Now, this is a unit that I look at and I kind of love quite a lot because you've got 3 of these models with a 9-inch scout move. Yes, it's a broad body, but if you're playing on, WTC, there's a lot of angles you can hide these guys behind, and you may end up putting one of them into strat reserve so you can walk it on the board because there's usually only 2 paths of ingress or egress through certain lanes on WTC boards. But on GW, or even I'd argue UKTC as well, there's a lot of open areas for you to be able to move them through and not so many blocking walls and crates and whatever else. Like, sure, they still exist. But when we go to the table, you'll see when I set up that there's a lot of places these guys can go, and then that 9-inch scout move, 14-inch move, advance, one of them potentially going an extra, like a flat 6 inches for a CP. This unit can go anywhere, and these guys can peel apart transports. Very, very good at that, given that there's not, like most transports you're going to go into are going to be T9. If T8 for certain armies. And that means that the Seeker missiles and the fusion are quite good. And on top of that, you're not running them as a singular one where it can be quite swingy. You're throwing 6 Seeker missiles and 3 of these Melter 4 melter guns. 180 points for 21 wounds of T7 with all of those accoutrements with them. It is a great alpha striking target. And even just throwing one of these units into like a Big Knight, the Big Knight still has to worry about those shots going through. And with lethal hits, it's all the scarier. So that is the list in its entirety. It comes out to a clean 2,000 points. Now, as I said, there are things that you can do to change up this list. Like, for example, if you didn't want to run 3 3-mans of piranhas, dropping 1 from each would mean you could put in like 2 broadside bodies. There's a lot of wiggle room that you've got in this. But if you lean into the skew in a very similar way to when I unveiled my Immortal Tau list, there were a lot of people who are like, nah, this won't work. Take this out, take this out. They gutted the core concept of the list, which meant that the concept didn't work anymore because it didn't have the backbone it had been built around. And the backbone that this is building around is an unyielding amount of speed, of damage, and weirdly of flexibility. And let's jump over to TTS and I'll show you, because how do I play this list? All right, here we are on TTS with it lined up all in its glory. The squadrons of piranhas look even better when you actually physically see them. And you can look at this and you can be like, I don't know, it doesn't have like, the big Riptide bodies, the Crisis bodies, whatever else. But this list still has just as many tools and assets in it as other lists. It's just got its damage in different places, and it's designed to do something very, very specific. Now, I will say with a list like this, there are going to be games, and if you're not comfortable yet with this style, it will be a learning process at first, but there are probably going to be plenty of games where our opponent like weathers the alpha strike and our game plan changes from, all right, I killed enough so the rest of the game's going to be easy, and it goes to, I'm move blocking you and I'm going to get tabled, but you're not going to touch primary for like 3 turns. You're going to struggle to do your secondaries. I am going to get an unyielding point lead, and then you will have to answer from that. Right, so as I was saying, on something like a GW layout, I just grabbed a random one. You can see that there are a number of points that we can use these piranhas incredibly effectively. And I also want to talk about how we're going to be using the Trail Shaper, because there's a bit of tech that I really like the idea of. Now, you won't do this against every single army because you've got to gauge when standing at very aggressive ranges is going to be good for you, or if it goes badly and your opponent gets first and they've got the speed and distance to be able to get on top of you, then everything goes badly. Obviously, use your brain. But if I look at, for example, we've got Unit Piranha, and I'll set this all up and then I'll skip to it all set. Okay, so I've just set up a little bit of the board here, and I just wanted to show some of the initial concepts on how you would deploy and what you're looking for in your sort of like opening turn, scout moves, first turn, whatever. And obviously, like if your opponent gets first, you're going to be looking at some slightly defensive moves. But this list is kind of like incredible for being able to do that. Now, one thing I am going to point out is that I'm just doing these assuming that there's no like counter-infiltrate bullshit from your opponent. If there is, you just play around it and do what you need to. That is actually one of the major weaknesses of a list like this. Big screens that can cover the entire front of the board will shut down a lot of your early aggression, but all it means is that it pushes your aggression to later points of the game and you just play a front-to-back Montka style. All right, so what I want to talk about is this stuff here. Now, I've put a 6-inch bubble on my Trail Shaper because this guy has a 7-inch scout move and he's got Infiltrate, which means with the Strike Swiftly enhancement, if I'm looking to put that on the Ghost Kills, first turn. Now, let's assume that my opponent maybe puts like some stuff in here, but not up against a wall because he's seen this and he's worried about the Ghost Kill charging and doing Tank Shock and locking that unit down from the other side of the wall where retaliation isn't really going to be as easy. So he's a little bit back. And I'll just like steal one of these guys just to represent. So he's got something like about there. In the first turn, and if he doesn't put something here, it gets even better, but I'll get to that. You go like this, 5.7, and then we go our 10, and then I don't even need to advance to get the front of my base, seeing all through here, and then I can charge whatever target I want. And then this Ghost Kill, depending on where he puts his stuff, but I don't think anybody's stupid enough to put stuff out in the open here against Tau. We just go, so we don't collide with anything over there. We go 6 inches would put us up to the wall. We'd probably have a little bit of distance. So 6 there, and then we go 10. And we can see anything that's back here. Obviously, we can't draw through the ruin because we're not wholly within it. But as long as our base can draw to something around the side, that's fine. And then if we want, we can auto-advance 6 and still shoot. This guy can charge, this guy can't. That's this one model with a scout enhancement. Now, obviously, bear in mind that the scout move, like Infiltrate must be 9 inches from your opponent's deployment zone. Scout moves don't care about your opponent's deployment zone. They only care about enemy models. And Infiltrate cares about enemy models as well, which is why I was saying Counter Infiltrate will block out your ability to be able to place where I've placed. Now, behind this, we've also got Piranhas going 9 inches. And I've set these guys up so that they can kind of just like roll straight through. So 5 inches there. I'll go 4 inches there to keep a similar formation. Up 1, up 3. And then we are able to go 5. So we just have to move like this going through there. This unit goes 9. And this guy just come out and join them. 5.5, 3.5 only puts me to there, so we'll just go to here. And then these guys on GW, this is 2 inches or less, so they can just like fly over the top of it without any, well, any unit can move over it as if it doesn't exist. So we just go 9 and 9. And this guy can go over to here. 9. Now, these guys obviously like, this is movement as well. But let's just say for the sake of argument, this is here. So depending on what I want to jam in, I can then go 14 is to here and then an advance. If I go an auto advance, I can put the Piranha over the side here and be inside my opponent's deployment zone. These guys on this side can go 14 and then whatever my advance roll is. And so now if he had anything hiding behind here or whatever, we're able to see him. Obviously we can't see back here, but that's exactly what this Ghost Kill's for. This guy now has a line of sight down everywhere here. This unit, let's say we don't need them. We don't need the third. Everybody else is taking care of stuff. We want to go in waves anyway. And let's say we roll in advance because we're not doing anything with them. Even with a 1, our Piranha's able to stand there. These two just move the 14. So this is not including any other pieces in our army. We already have move blocking pieces everywhere around. We have line of sight into his deployment zone. And I haven't even committed this Piranha unit here. Like, for all my opponent knows, I could just have this unit hang out like this. Now, bear in mind, it is a big footprint, so you really need to know where you're placing them and where your movement's going to be. But I've still got all this hanging back, and this is my positioning in my first turn. And this is also on Crucible, where Crucible has, I believe, the longest no man's land. So this is on the longest board, and like, so you can see where you might want to go. And if there's nothing around here that I want to commit this Piranha unit, all right, absolutely fine. Hang here, hang here, hang here. So that's why I love this little Kroot Trail Shaper with the enhancement, rather than doing it on like a Fireblade or and a Firesight Marksman can absolutely do this if you wanted to go down that route. I wanted to have the redeploy for the Kroot Carnivores as well, and potentially for himself, because if it looks like how our opponent deploys, that this isn't just going to work out, whatever, before you roll to go first, you just pick him up and put him near somebody else. And that means that, okay, my Ghost Kills aren't scouting, but now maybe my Hammerheads are. And hammerheads with the Scout 6 gives them a lot of extra angles that they can hit that they wouldn't have been able to before, or you can put them in extremely aggressive positions and then just bring them backwards so they're behind safety. That's what I was talking about with the flexibility of the list. Even though like leaning into skews like this is a bit of a meme, and I don't know that this is competitive, it is still incredibly fun. And there are tools for you to have some version of skill expression in this. Then Pathfinders, you're obviously setting them up in places where they can, be aggressive and then run back behind the wall if you don't go first. Same story over here, like same story maybe down here with the Ghost Kill, and you scout in this way and then move forward and then, you're blowing up whatever. Like you just have so much coverage and pressure on the map. Now, yes, it can all go badly. Yes, if you are hyper aggressive and you don't go in waves, but you throw everything out in the open, you're probably going to die. You're probably going to die and you'll lose the game. But played intelligently, this has the capacity to lock your opponent down for so long. Because let's also entertain the idea that I put a Pathfinder unit like blocky off like this. So now my opponent can't leave there. And I put a Pathfinder unit like this. So now I've committed, 4 units? 4 units, my opponent doesn't leave his deployment zone turn 1. That then means that on my turn, I'm going to max primary, and he is at best going to get a 5 for holding his home, depending on the primary mission. At worst, he gets a nothing. And if this is something like Terraform, for example, we jump out to a very substantial lead early on, and we keep ticking that lead as long as he can't get out. Because then behind this, you can still have like the next set of piranhas, the next like unit of Pathfinders, whatever. Like there are so many options you can take with this. And as long as you see the path to victory, you got the tools to be able to do it. All right. So with that is our Mimi Alpha Strike list, which I actually would love to get some reps in just to see if it's got some sort of competitive backing. With Fire Dragons being taken out, I'm actually kind of expecting big vehicles without invuln saves to re-enter the meta, or go more into a vehicle-heavy meta that people didn't want to when Eldar were running around doing all of their bullshit. Now, I could 100% be wrong on this, and it's only, like, that prediction is only for my local area, but if it does go that way, or I go into, like, Knights matchups, that sort of stuff, like, this list has a lot of tools to be able to deal with them, and deal with them early in the game, and make it so that, like, yeah, Knights can walk over, but I've got tools to be able to stop them, whatever. Big CSM lists running like some of the demon engines, whatever. We can get on top of those demon engines early and start blowing them up and making their game very, very uncomfortable. And all around, honestly, I do kind of feel like Farsight sometimes, where like aggression and Montka is 100% my thing. I love aggression in games, or controlled aggression. I don't go stupid. Sometimes I go stupid. Not all the time do I go stupid, but whatever. If you enjoyed this, let me know if you get any games in on it, if there's any changes that you make to the list, and obviously do the internet things, liking and commenting and sharing and all that sort of stuff. I'm not your dad. If you did enjoy this, you got something out of it, and you found it helpful, and you're in a position to consider donating. Chelsea and I are about to go through quite a few rough months, and we are kind of preparing in advance for that. So anything is absolutely appreciated. If not, take the list, have fun with it. And like I said, we opened with a bit of a fun one. The next video that's going to be coming out is going to be a more competitively minded Montka list, which will give you a little bit of a footing to step into if this is the detachment of choice for you. As always, thank you to my patrons and my YouTube members who make all of my videos possible. If you would like to join them, there are links in the description. You can go down there. It is by far one of the best ways to support the channel long term. And there are tiers of the Patreon where you can get coaching for yourself, one-on-one time with me, list builds, all that sort of stuff. So check it out. With that, that's it for me for this Part 1 Grotmas video. See you for Part 2.